Traveling around where the national parks are. Catherine teaching watercolor and baby Archer. Watercolor with Catherine and baby Archer.
Hey everybody! This is our first video from the road. We're in Hope Valley. It's in BLM land. There's the baby. Can you say hello? No, he can't talk yet. I am just gonna talk a little bit about brushes since we haven't talked a lot about all the materials. We did some paper and I posted something about pigments, a text file, but let's do a video about brush choice. Okay, so you can get lots of different kinds of brushes in terms of the type of hair that is used for the brush. You can get sable, which is, especially red sable, is the nicest and the most expensive. And you can spend a lot of money on that stuff. Sableline is often a form of ox hair that can be very similar to sable. It's nice if you can afford it. Not as expensive as red sable, but sableline will work. But in this class, we're just going to be using nylon brushes. They're really pretty inexpensive and they work pretty well. Also, I think I've used squirrel hair in the past, and that was probably the fanciest brush that I have, which is somewhere in the mess that the baby is making right now. But yeah, I'm just using nylon when I paint most of the time. Okay, there's two general shapes that you're going to be thinking about. One is, oh, here's my squirrel hair brush. It's getting a lot of use. You can use either a round or a square brush. Now there's some other fancy special brushes you can get, but a square looks like that. Very, very simple. And a round is going to look something like that. Round is like a standard paintbrush shape, if you can see. Where am I? My camera's over here. You can see that's a round brush. That's a square brush. When you look for brushes in the store, the square brushes are going to go by the size, so and actually in inches, whereas a round brush, that's the next door dog, a round brush is going to go in numbers. So like this is a number 10 round. You can see it right there, number 10 round, whereas the square doesn't say on there, but that's a 3/4 inch square. A couple of other shapes that you might consider. This is technically a round, but it's actually also called a mop brush, and this is a mock squirrel, imitation squirrel mop brush by Raphael. It's nice, but it has a little bit of a wiggle to it. I might have to re-glue it. Oops, see, it came right off. To re-glue it. When you order brushes on the internet, which is one of our only options these days, you run the risk of getting something that doesn't have a perfect tip on it, because you can't feel it, you can't see it in person. They're just going to send you whatever they have, and it might have a wiggle to it. You never know. What choice do we have at the moment? We also have things that, okay, there's the number 2, just to give you kind of a sense. I guess when I hold it up to the camera, it's hard to see, but maybe the baby can demonstrate. Here, Archer, what do you think? You got a round brush for him? This is a mop brush that Archer has. Yeah, we already showed them the mop brush. Let's come up with something else. How about, you want to show them the oval brush? Yeah, there's the oval brush. That's kind of a funny shape to it. That's just by the black velvet. That's actually measured in inches. That's a 3/4 inch oval. I don't use that one that much. Probably the most important one to have. You got to have a big square brush for washes. They're less expensive probably than a round brush for washes. And also nice to have somewhere around an 8 to a 12 in the round brush category. If you have nothing else, get yourself an 8 to a 12, somewhere in there of the round, and get yourself at least a 3/4 inch square for doing big washes. I also have, you can see that has a bit of a longer bristle to it for very fine detail. This doesn't give you as much control. So this is called a liner brush. But because the bristles are a little longer, it doesn't give you as much control, but it holds a little bit more paint. So it's kind of a trade-off. These are also known as rigger brushes because you paint the rigging of ships with these tiny little brushes. So I would have that square that I was talking about, 3/4 inch, at least for a square, 8 to 12 round, number 8 to 12 round. And then I also have in my arsenal a couple of other sizes of round that are super helpful. So like this round number 2 I use a lot. Number 6 that I'll switch to sometimes. And see, there's a number 8. Nice to have a few different rounds. This one doesn't hold its tip as well as I would like. Got it on the internet at Blick. Sorry. What else do I want to show you? So you can also get these this is from Michaels. This is a flat, but it also has these little ridges in it. That's for grasses. You can do that with a pair of scissors and an old brush that you don't like very much. That'll make some nice grasses. Another thing you can get is a fan brush that also makes for good landscape painting, doing the blades of grass. You don't want to have to paint individual blades of grass. That's kind of a pain in the butt. You got anything else to add there? I also forgot to mention this. This is called a triple loader from Michaels. You can also get something called a dagger brush. Can you see the, oh, I forgot where the camera was again. The end of that has a triangle on it. So that can be really fun for more foliage. Not so much grasses, but foliage. It's really good for it. So if you can find yourself a triple loader at Michaels, go get yourself one of those, or a dagger brush. But I actually haven't found an actual dagger brush, so good luck with that. One other thing, I think when you are buying a brush, if you can do it in person, dip your, like, maybe wet your fingers, and that's so unsanitary. If you can get the brush wet somehow, you can tell what kind of a point it makes. Sometimes when you'll go buy brushes, they're stiff, they look like they have a point, but they've got some kind of glue in them to hold the point. And then when you dip it in water, it just like splays out, which is horrible. And then the other thing would just be, don't store your brushes wet and don't leave them in the water for too long. Like, I have a tendency to forget that I'm painting. That might have something to do with this baby. And you can see that that happened because I left this in the water, and the wood flaking, the smooth covering on the wood part of the brush has come off. Sometimes the glue will come loose too, and in some cases I'm looking for another brush that looks kind of gross, but I don't have one. I think I threw them away. Okay, that is pretty much all I have to tell you about basic brushes. If you're going out to buy things right now, that's what I would get my hands on. And I like I said, Black Velvet's really a good brand. Silver is I don't know which one is the brand and which one is the model, but Black Velvet Silver. And if you are just going to Michaels, even their acrylic brushes are pretty good, but they have watercolor, like a professional section, and they're not that expensive. I'd go grab yourself some of those. And I have a Studio Synthetic from Blick that I really like. It's just their name brand, and that's not a bad one, that's for sure. So that is what I would recommend. Okay, guys, that's my first video. Let's look at this beautiful view one more time. And Archer, you want to say goodbye? Hey, turn around. Say goodbye. No, we don't have any words yet. Since the beginning of the video, he hasn't learned to talk.
Tune in with Catherine every week. Plein air mountains or a beautiful creek. Practice wet on wet or the dry brush technique.